Hello and welcome to a very special edition of The Piano Men with Stanley Carr. I am very pleased to welcome tonight Mr. Anthony Saddic. Having played with the likes of Johnny Neel, Wayne Newton, and Riders in the Sky, a songwriter in his own right, classically trained but rock and roll brain keyboardist, Anthony brings his vivacious playing style, love of music, big smile, and dancing head of curly hair to every performance. With a diverse menagerie of influences like Ray Charles, Floyd Kramer, Stevie Wonder, and Herbie Hancock, Anthony's style of playing is hard to pigeonhole but is instantly recognizable as his own. Since moving to Nashville in 2020, Anthony has made a name for himself as one of the town's premier accordionists and has a special knack and love for accompanying singer-songwriters on their original music, both on the stage and in the studio. Welcome, Anthony.
Thanks for having me, Stanley.
Yes, it's my pleasure. Now, talk to me about your childhood. We had talked earlier off air that you're from a small town in Pennsylvania called Westchester.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, right outside of Philadelphia, pretty close to the Delaware border. Really cute little town. Very happy I grew up there. I grew up in a family of 5 kids. When I was in high school, my parents adopted 3 more. And most of us are pretty musical. The oldest 3, we all have pursued music professionally. So a lot of music in our house.
So grew up in a musical family.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man. So you had to hear a lot of tunes, I'd imagine, growing up. Do you remember some of your first cassette tapes or CDs you heard growing up?
Yeah. Well, my dad had a huge, big wall of CDs almost, just a big bookshelf, I guess, not unlike the one you have.
Yeah.
Lots of '60s music in there. So I used to take the Beatles out of there. The Beatles were a favorite growing up. My mom is really into Led Zeppelin, so I listened to a lot of Led Zeppelin growing up, especially in the car. Yeah, my first CD, I remember the first CD that I ever picked out to buy was a band called Audio Adrenaline. And they were like a Christian classic rock group, kind of like, yeah, I don't know. They didn't have a lot of keyboards, but that's something that I learned later.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, was there a particular band or artist that you just gravitated towards? Like, man, this is some good stuff.
Yeah, well, my parents have good taste. The Beatles and Led Zeppelin have remained favorites for sure. When I sort of came of age myself, there's this band called Relient K that I was really into because I was really into rock and roll, and when I was that age, pop punk and emo music were really popular, and I played piano. So Relient K was sort of the only pop punk emo band that used piano in their stuff. So
interesting.
I learned a lot of my tricks from them, and their songwriter Matt Thiessen, who lives here in Nashville, remains, I think, one of my biggest influences and biggest musical heroes.
What is it about his style that just makes you just fascinated?
Well, it depends if we're talking songwriting or piano playing. As far as piano playing, it's pretty basic, but it has a very full sound to it. So I learned to comp really from him. He doesn't do anything flashy. I didn't learn any solos from him really, but I learned to comp from him just playing chords and arpeggios pretty much. His songwriting though is really it's very tongue-in-cheek and humorous. Lots of plays on words and stuff, which I like to include in my own stuff as well.
Well, tell me, so you grew up in a musical family, surrounded by music, CDs at a young age. At what point did you start taking lessons?
So my older brother and sister were taking lessons basically as early as I can remember. And I just remember watching them being like, I want to be able to do that too. And I used to pretty much beg my parents to let me take lessons as well. And I believe that their stipulation was that I had to learn to read first, read words, before I could start playing piano. And so I don't remember the exact age I started. When did kids learn to read? 4 or 5? 6?
Yeah, it's about that. It's about that time, like kindergarten, first grade, even preschool age. Somewhere like in that early development stages.
Yeah, I'd say I was probably 5 or 6 when I started playing piano.
It's not a bad age to start. I mean, kids love learning music, and it's good for them because it teaches them not only like having a passion for it, but also discipline and having fun, and of course it can lead to other things as well with playing with others.
Oh yeah, absolutely, all of those things, and as you emotionally develop, having that outlet was really important for me too.
So you start taking lessons. Were you classically trained at first? Did you do jazz? What was your?
Yeah, I'll say I was classically trained. Yeah, my teacher was really encouraging to be creative. So we didn't really focus directly on classical music all the time, but it is probably most of what we played was like Mozart and Beethoven. We were big on those two in particular. I did when I went to college and I got these really strict Russian piano teachers. I learned that I was like not as there was some like physical technique that we never really focused on. So I always struggle to say I was classically trained for that reason, but I did learn classical music from before anything else.
You really have to like. Not obviously practice is important and everything else and everything that you do, not just with music, but like it seems like with classical in particular, you really have to like know it like real cold, like real hard. Like when you get down, sit down, practice and play it, it's like you really have to note for note really try to figure out and be meticulous about it.
Totally, and learning the notes and the songs. I owe so much credit to my piano teacher. She really helped instill this love of music and the love of classical music, actually, in particular. The thing is that, people who really hammer in that classical music, it's not just getting it note for note. They look at every bar and look like okay, this note has to be quieter than this note, and this note has to be louder. Like they get so meticulous. It blows my mind.
It's like the crescendos and then the staccatos.
Well, even crescendos that aren't written in, they're like implied crescendos that people who have been playing classical music all their life, they know exactly where to put them. And that's an instinct that I don't have. I'll put it that way.
Well, tell me about like the first pieces you remember playing. You said you play like Mozart and Beethoven. Do you have like a particular favorite one?
Oh, yeah. Well, the first like real classical piece I remember playing is the Mozart Sonata in C that everybody knows, I guess.
Yeah.
Dun 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 dun. And for Elise.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I learned a Chopin piece. That was when I was like, oh, okay, I'm good at this. I can do this because Chopin has never written an easy piece. So.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those like that has like these tricky melodies.
Yeah, and just full chords and really fast arpeggios and glissandos and stuff. Just a lot of dexterity is involved in that.
Yeah. Did you find it hard at first to really learn, and then decided, okay, this is starting to come together?
I think I had my love for it was so enthusiastic. It wasn't that difficult to start. Keeping going was sometimes hard. Every musician knows you get into these ruts where you just feel like you're not getting any better. And when I was a kid, before I had really like dedicated my life to music like I have, it was an option. Well, it was an option in my head to quit, and I wanted to. And my parents, I remember throwing temper tantrums. Wanting to quit piano, and they're like, nope, you gotta stick with it. Obviously, I'm very glad that they made me stick with it. So often, one of the most common things that people tell me when I tell them that I play piano, they own like, more than 50% of the time they say, oh, I played piano as a kid and I really wish I stuck with it. So it's like sometimes I feel like I am the other side of that equation, or like this is what happens when someone does stick with it, I guess.
What's the one thing that keeps you going when you feel like you're burnt out?
When I feel like I'm burnt out, I mean, it's got to be multiple things. Of course, the somewhat cheesy answer is just like having a love for music. But if I'm honest, sometimes it's just I can't allow myself to get a normal job. I don't want to work in an office or a restaurant or a factory.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I just got to keep doing this.
Gotta keep doing it. All right. So you start taking lessons, and you start, creating like a repertoire of songs. At what point did you decide to like transition into like other genres and like learn jazz and, later on with like pop stuff?
Yeah. I feel like I have this quality about the way I look at music that has been both a wonderful blessing and sometimes also a bit of a detriment. But I don't see walls between genres as easily as other people do. So I never really felt like I made a huge effort to explore other genres. It all came pretty naturally. My parents listened to rock. My grandparents listened to classical and jazz, and then I grew up listening to the emo and pop, whatever was on the radio. Really, country was my only blind spot, which is funny because that's basically mostly what I play today. But it's not too different from rock. But yeah, that I love that about myself. Although it has made things difficult because there's certain traditions like jazz and bluegrass especially have these really deep traditions and deep vocabulary. Like there's certain phrases that you'll often play in jazz if you're an authentic jazz player, and those are things that I sometimes don't pick up on because I don't steep myself deeply into one tradition.
Yeah, you kind of have to. I guess like it's like being a well-rounded musician. You have to like figure out like what does this do? What does this do? Like really like on your own, like study it.
Yeah. And I don't have good enough attention sometimes to focus on one genre for so long.
Well, we're going to transition to our first selection of the evening. This is a song you wrote called Square. Talk to me about this piece.
Yeah. Well, this piece I actually wrote as a joke originally. I was madly in love with this girl, and one day she bought these kind of ridiculous giant square sunglasses, and I basically wanted to tell her that I thought they were ridiculous, but to still let her know that I loved her. And so I wrote this song where I'm basically just listing all the things that I love about her, and then saying, but those sunglasses are a little nerdy, right? And I just wrote it as a joke to make her laugh, and it turned out to be just one of my favorite songs I've ever written. So, and there's every single line in there is an inside joke between the two of us. I can't go into it all right now. But it's also my mom, who I think is listening right now. Hi, Mom. She gave me such a sweet compliment where she said, I feel like I'm falling in love with this girl just from listening to this song. And so that was one of my favorite compliments.
I love that. All right. Well, we're going to play the song right now. This is Square on the Piano Men. All right. We are back on the Piano Men. I am talking with musician Anthony Saddic here tonight about his career in the music business. Let's talk about your high school and college days playing music. Talk to me a bit. Were you in any high school bands or?
Yeah, well, I was in the high school. Well, I was in the high school band and the high school jazz band. I actually played trumpet for both of those for a while anyway. Until I realized that I was like starting to get better at piano and wasn't really getting that much better at trumpet. Then I switched to piano in the jazz band anyway. Yeah, and it was cool. And there were a couple other really good musicians in that band. I also got to play in the like the statewide orchestra, high school orchestra once. Not because I made the cut, but because they were hosting it at our school, and there were no pianists in the statewide orchestra. So I had this wonderful honor, and to be honest, I think I kind of screwed it up. I think the conductor hated me. I didn't know how to read the baton.
What happened there?
Oh, it was just, you know what it was? I was, to this day, I don't take the blame for it. The orchestra was a little behind the stick, as they say in the industry. Like he'll throw the stick down on the beat, and then the orchestra plays. They're not perfectly in time with him, and so I had a hard time knowing who to follow, the orchestra or the conductor. And there was one section where I had a big solo, and I was just like trying to like intellectualize how far behind the beat to play, and I just screwed everything up. But
it happens.
Yeah, I don't think anyone in the audience noticed. So
it's one of those things where, you make a mistake, just move on.
Yeah, that's right. And I learned. I actually in college, I played piano in the college wind ensemble, and we played a national conference for wind ensembles, and I actually had some random band director come up to me and say, "You really know how to follow a conductor." So it's like I like redeemed myself. I had a whole character arc there.
When you're attending the music school, talk to me about like some of the classes you took and some of the professors you studied under.
Sure. I majored in classical composition, actually. I thought I wasn't good enough to be a performance major, which, as far as classical music goes, that may still be the case. But yeah, and I studied under. I had a lot of great professors. Terry Kleinfelter was my piano professor, and Robert Maggio and Adam Silverman were my closest composition professors. Andrew Yosviak was said wind ensemble director. But yeah, they're great. Terry Kleinfelter taught me everything I know about jazz, really. And anything that I was missing in my physical technique, she also helped me mend to the extent that I've mended it. I still have a lot of work to do on that. And then Adam Silverman, Robert Maggio taught me how to write for other instruments and put yourself in the mind of other instrumentalists. Yeah, they actually had me back around the time that I released Square and that whole EP. They actually had me come back and teach a seminar there, which was an absolute honor. It was really cool.
It's a big homecoming.
Big homecoming, man. Yeah, it was cool, and it was interesting because I just became really like a professional pianist, whatever, and I was expecting all the question and answers at the end of the lecture, I guess you could call it. I was expecting all the question and answers to be about being a professional musician and all this, and all anyone wanted to know about was my recording techniques, which was a surprise to me, but it was fun to share that information.
Well, I'm sure like when you're talking to kids, like they're looking up to you because you've been in their shoes before. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and that song, I've noticed that I have this talent for programming drums. That song, I've had so many comments on, like, man, who is that drummer? And that drummer is me typing in every single note by note, and looking like, if I were a drummer, would I play this note softer than the other or louder? Like, I get really into the weeds with it.
Well, I think the cool thing about technology nowadays, and we were talking about this earlier, the good thing about technology is that you can use these applications like GarageBand or Pro Tools, basically kind of whatever you're playing, you could turn whatever instrument you are using into another one and basically create your own song through that.
Yeah, it can be really helpful, and it can sometimes. There are times when it sucks the life out of the music when someone just has automated drums the whole time. Sometimes it's cool, but I like to say that I have an excuse because I so intentionally programmed every single note. I didn't just copy and paste, not that that is necessarily a bad thing. You know, there's some situations where that's the right thing to do. But
now, starting out, I know we talked about, you know, your gigs in school, but outside of school, when starting out, you know, do you remember like your first gigs, like paid gigs?
Paid gigs. My first paid gigs were playing in retirement homes. I played in retirement homes around Philadelphia for a couple of years there at the end of high school, and loved doing that. You know, seeing everyone's faces light up, and you know, people who are just completely nonverbal will all of a sudden start singing along with the music. It's a really special thing. As far as my first gigs in general go, my brother and I were in a band together called The Go Around. Our music's still on Spotify and all that. If you want to check it out, it's good stuff. And I feel like I'm doing a lot of bragging. I need to like.
No, this is fine.
But we were one of the more popular bands in our county, I'd say. We had a song called the Sunflower Song that was sort of like I don't want to say it was a local hit because we didn't really get airplay, but like the kids our age in our high schools and the neighboring high schools knew that song, knew who we were. So that was a cool thing. And that was really my first taste of gigging and performing.
Yeah, I mean, when you're on stage and you are constantly doing it, like there's a sense of confidence that you gain because, you know, you've made your mistakes, you've made your goof ups, and you take lessons away from that and you just keep going.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of that confidence you get on stage, I remember the first time my parents saw me perform with the rock band, you know. And you know, I was always this shy little kid pretty much. And man, something about that kind of music just can't help but just like headbang and dance around and stuff. And I think I freaked my parents out a little bit. They'd never seen that side of me.
I mean, you've got that Beatles and that Led Zeppelin influence.
Oh,
I mean, it sure's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah, it's funny. You notice, I notice whenever whoever I'm like listening to or watching videos of the most, I'll accidentally adopt some of their traits. And that time in my life, I was really into metal. There's a band called Under Oath that was like a screamo band that I was really into, and they had a keyboard player actually, and he would just go nuts. You never saw his face because his hair was always shaking in front of his face, and I think I adopted those traits from him, to be honest.
I mean, when you get like these influences, you know, you pick a few of them and eventually it becomes your own style.
Yeah.
I mean, so many people in whatever field you're into, you study what made them so good. You pick a few things that you like about, traits that you like about each one, and it becomes your own.
Yeah.
And so that's what you were able to do, and I think that's so amazing. Talk to me about advice that you got from your teachers and professors that you still apply to today.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I'm gonna go back as far as my first piano teacher growing up. Was one thing that she would always hammer home is that she would give me a piece of music, classical music, and it has all the dynamics written out on it. And she would always say, like, I want you to learn it exactly how it's written to show me that you can. And then if you're feeling it differently, then you can play it again and play it the way that you're feeling it. And I feel like I've sort of adopted that as my philosophy. You know, I think there's something beautiful about people who like to preserve an art form in its purest form. I think that's a beautiful thing. But as far as I am, I like to be interpretive. I like to respect the artist or the composer's original intent, but I like to interpret things my way, and I think that sort of sums up my philosophy in performing.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have variety and different takes on different things because it's unique and nobody's really ever heard of it before. So I like that, you know, because you want to have a different outlook on things, on different outlook on a certain piece or certain song, and it's your own. It's like your own work in a way, because it's your version.
Yes, yeah. That's one compliment that I've gotten a lot. It was one of those things that another one of those things that I both love and can't stand about my own musicianship is that I'm always told that I have a unique sound, that people, when they hear me play, they know it's me, which is a wonderful thing. People strive for that. It can be difficult because I have a hard time sounding like someone else when it's appropriate, but it's you give and you take.
Yeah. We're gonna play our next selection here this evening. This is a song called "When I Say Her Name." Tell me about this song.
Okay, so this is from the same EP, the same release that Square is from. That whole EP I wrote about this one girl. So there's another song about the same girl. And you'll hear her name in the song. But this was... A funny thing about this one is she sent me this really dark industrial... maybe with the National... I don't know. I forget who it was. This really dark industrial sounding song. And she's like, I want you to make like a real dark industrial sounding thing like this. And so I opened up my computer and I found this synth sound it was called industrial piano. I was like, cool, this is a real dark sound. And then I put together all the darkest intervals, like all these like minor seconds and tritones and stuff, and I strung them one after the other, and then I hit play to listen back to it, and it was kind of this like funky little, almost happy sounding little lick. I was like, oh, this isn't what I was trying to do, but it's pretty cool. And so I just made this funky song. I recorded the vocals to this at Westchester University too.
That is amazing. All righty. Well, we're going to play it right here. This is When I Say Her Name on the Piano Men. All right. We are back on the Piano Men, chatting with musician Anthony Saddic about his career in the music business. And I apologize in advance. That was not When I Say Her Name. That was a song called Bags, Fishbowl demo. But we will play When I Say Her Name to close things out tonight. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the people you've played with, because this is a pretty good list right here. If you can kind of share some anecdotes about each player or each artist or musician that you can, and tell me your thoughts on them. We'll start with Johnny Neel.
Oh yeah, Johnny Neel was a really good friend of mine. I met him. Yeah, well, it's a long story, but he was one of the first people that I met when I moved here to Nashville, and he just really took a liking to me, which was such an honor. And we have a similar playing style. He would come to my house for a Christmas party every year, and we'd jam together, which was such a sweet little memory. He actually, about 6 months ago, it's June. Well, it's been longer than 6 months, but at some point last year, he gave me a call, and he was like, "Man, he had a stroke right before I moved here, 2019, and he lost the use of the left side of his body. So he still played organ, he still played B3 like a champ, but he had a hard time playing piano without his left hand." So he gives me a call last year, and he said, I've got this beautiful grand piano just sitting in the corner, and every time I look at it, I get so sad that nobody ever plays it. Do you want it?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I have Johnny Neel's piano in my house, which is an incredible honor, and to make the story, give this story a little bittersweet ending. Well, a bitter ending, but a bittersweet arc overall. Is that 2 days after we moved that piano into my house, he passed away, and it almost felt like he knew he just wanted this piano to be with somebody who who loved it and passed it on to the next generation. Every time I play that piano, which several times a day, of course, I feel like I'm channeling some part of him, you know.
Johnny Neel is one of those legendary artists, musicians, especially in the Nashville community. Great keyboard player, pianist. Definitely still missed.
Mm-hmm.
But that's amazing that you got to not only work with him, but got his piano to play on, and they're still using it.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. And we actually, my roommate Doug Jones was Johnny Neel's best friend.
Mm-hmm.
Two of them were thick as thieves, and I actually my first time producing someone else's record was my roommate's record, Blue Submarine. It's this Beatles project that's coming out in a week or 2 weeks, something like that. Just keep your eye out for it. And the last song on the album is All You Need Is Love, and Johnny Neel is playing organ and singing, and it's the last recording of Johnny Neel, so it's going to be a really special thing when that's out there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing about that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Wayne Newton.
Wayne Newton, man, it was just a cool experience. I wish I really had a great anecdote about it. He was really kind. We only interacted with him on stage, but he was very nice. Like he wasn't like standoffish or anything. He shook everybody's hand, gave us a nice warm smile. Really, the only story I can tell about that is that he gave us about 40 minutes worth of music and told us it was a 2.5 hour show. And I'm like, does he know how long 8 songs are? Like, this is gonna be a super short show. And then what happened was we get up on stage and he spent most of the time talking, which was amazing. He had such great stories about hanging out with Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra and all them, and that was a really wonderful experience. Yeah, no, nothing too crazy I can tell about it, but just an honor.
Yeah, I mean, when you're hearing someone that's a legend and they're talking about, you know, sharing these stories, I mean, it's gotta mean something, you know, because this guy's been around for so long, and he's shared the stage with other incredible performers,
mm-hmm.
and even if it's a short set list, I mean, you got to be amazed by these stories that he's telling.
Oh yeah, for sure. The stories were awesome. He also got up and he played fiddle, he played guitar, he played steel. He's a multi-talented person, which perhaps most people know, but I didn't realize that until I played with him. Pretty cool.
It is really, really fascinating, and you also got to work with a group that I think they're just talented, super talented musicians, and I've had the fortune of meeting them and interviewing one of the members of this group a while back. Riders in the Sky.
Oh yeah, I love those guys. They're the best. Yeah, that's one of those experiences where it's like when you get to play with someone that you listened to as a kid. That's something really special, you know. Like there's something momentous about playing with someone like Wayne Newton, who's just a legend. But there's something like, you know, a personal. When you're playing with someone that you have a personal connection with, it's really cool. Most people, even if they don't know they grew up listening to the Riders in the Sky, they grew up listening to the Riders in the Sky because of Toy Story and Monsters Inc. They did a lot of the music in both of those,
mm-hmm.
and. So, man, that's one of those things that I wish I could go back and tell little 12-year-old Anthony, you are going to play with the Riders in the Sky. And it's funny, I told them when I was playing with them, I was like, I bet I'm the first person to play with you guys who listened to you as a kid, or who watched Toy Story 2 as a kid, you know? And they're like, yeah, I think that's true. They're pretty old, for those who don't know. But
I remember, I think Toy Story 2, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was the first movie I can remember going to see in theaters.
Oh, yeah.
So hearing Woody's Roundup being played at the Opry was just a special feeling. I shook Ranger Doug's hand one time when I got a backstage tour, and I interviewed Too Slim a while back for a project I was working on, and just couldn't have been nicer.
Oh my gosh.
Humble guys, really are passionate about what they do. They love performing.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how they've been together for what now? 40 plus years, 45 years or something like that.
50 years. They started in
like 77, 70s, I think. Yeah. I mean, to see how hard they've worked and how far they've come in that amount of time, I think there's something to be said about that, because not many groups can say that they've been together that long.
Oh yeah, not many indeed. To rejuvenate your career too, like halfway through your 50-year career, is another special thing. You know, to create a whole new generation of fans when you have white hair. You know, how cool is that?
There's no better feeling in the world when you get to play with your musical heroes and icons, and they're just some of the best, especially in Nashville.
Oh yeah, and you know, man, Too Slim's hilarious, and he always makes me smile every time I see him. He's what a contagious energy. And Ranger Doug, I'm lucky enough that I know him somewhat well at this point, because I've also played with the Time Jumpers, and I've gone to see the Time Jumpers a lot. But Jeff Taylor, who's the Riders in the Sky's usual accordion sub, he's a very dear friend of mine, and I consider him the strongest musical mentor and personal mentor here in Nashville that I have in my life. And so that whole circle, I have the pleasure of being.
I love the whole like bits that they do, you know, with the face bits and the Eminem stuff that they do at the Opry.
Oh yeah, I mean, my favorite when I was a kid, my favorite moment on the Riders in the Sky Monsters Inc. album is when they start playing their face. And I'll tell you what, man, the first time I saw Too Slim do that in person, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm in a dream right now.
Oh man.
Oh, you want to know a fun fact?
Sure.
Perhaps you already know.
Sure.
Too Slim is the person who came up with the Paul is dead rumor.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Pretty wild.
It's very eye-opening.
Yeah, you can read his article that he wrote in college. Just the equivalent of going viral.
Yeah, I mean, talk about you know, Beatles and you know, I think it was like, I forgot what album it was, but I think it like one of the songs, like if you listen to it back in reverse, they had Paul is dead, or you could make it out.
Miss him.
Yeah. Eerie. All right, so you moved to Nashville in 2020. What made you decide to move to Music City?
So actually, as I mentioned earlier, my brother and I were in a rock band called the Go Around. And we sort of, well, I'm telling my side of the story. You know, he might explain it a little differently, but I thought we sort of had this unspoken pact that we were going to move to LA together after I graduated college, or something like that. The pact was entirely unspoken, so I'm really not being fair to my brother right now. But yeah, and so I was in college, and he didn't go to school, and so while I was in school, he moved to Nashville, and I was like, "You son of a gun!" And so I was like, so once I graduated college, I was like, "All right, I'll give Nashville a year and see how it goes, and if I like it, I'll stay." And well, the first year was 2020, so I gave myself another year.
Yeah, we'll extend this another year just because of everything that's going on with
right.
the COVID and the pandemic. You don't want to get cooped up in all that stuff.
Exactly.
You're not seeing what Nashville really is like until you're out in the public eye.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly my thought process. All I knew of Nashville was my room.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually I stuck it out, and I met some wonderful people like Jeff Taylor and Johnny Neel, and some of my brother's friends as well, and just created a really beautiful community here that I would have never I don't think I would have received in LA to this extent. It's really, Nashville's a really supportive, fraternal town.
It is. Everybody wants to cheer each other on.
Exactly. Yeah, like Jeff was just so excited to have a kid playing accordion. There was I don't think there's ever been a thought in his mind about competing with this new young kid on accordion. You know, it's just like he's just ready to support the next generation. That sums up the attitude here in Nashville.
And I love that young musicians are getting the big break, and you're seeing a lot of support to get the young blood, you know, up and going. I mean, I think that's important that we have young musicians, you know, educate them about music, and then go off and to play with other people, and from there, you know, become singer-songwriters or work in production. And that's kind of something interesting about the music industry, is the world of production and how it's evolved and changed over time. As we were talking earlier about this, do you feel it's harder or easier now with all the social media platforms and with all the technology that's around us to, you know, create something that could, you know, blow up or, you know, be successful?
Yeah, it's a tricky question, because it's probably perhaps probably easier to make something that will blow up, but to create something with longevity seems to be increasingly more difficult. You know, when you go on Spotify, you hear a song that you like, unless you're a rare exception, like the Sabrina Carpenters of the world and Chappell Roan and all them. If you hear a song on the radio and you look it up on Spotify, you see that one song has millions and millions of plays, and then the one right under it on the artist page has like a couple thousand. You know, like people just don't. It's harder to get people to listen to all of your music and not just your hit. You know, not that I would know. I don't have any hits, but
well, I think it's interesting how nowadays you see more emphasis on singles rather than albums. And I think back in like the 70s and 80s, albums were like the thing, right?
Yeah.
They were like the thing, and you don't really get the full pie. You only just get a slice nowadays, right?
Or you get a slice at a time, which is also like not a... I feel like such an old man saying all this, but it doesn't feel as satisfying to me. You know, nowadays when people release an album, when they do release an album, they'll release their first single, then the second one. They call it rolling out the album. And
yeah.
It's like one song every couple weeks until the whole album's out. I mean, it was so cool to hear one song and be like, oh, can't wait to hear that album. And then when you pick up the album from the store or get it in the mail, you get to hear the whole thing. And, man, it's such a wonderful thing. I miss that.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about CDs and listening to it in your car and cassette tapes and just rewinding it and playing it over and over again. I mean, there's nothing like that feeling, you know, of being able to do this, you know, from start to finish. Yeah. Now it's just you get it on your phone and, you know, doesn't really have that same kind of feel as it used to.
Yeah, you listen as far as your attention span will take you before you go listen to something else or do something else.
And the thing is, you know, talking about Nashville and how the music scene is we've had like so many clubs and bars and restaurants that have had so much value over the years, and so many places for people to play. We've had a few that have closed down in recent years, but I feel like this is still such a thriving community where you see more songwriters, have open mic nights and mic sessions, and that's how you get your break nowadays. Is you show up to these open mic nights and
I think the
show your talent.
community is the key to it. It's even those open mic nights. A lot of people roll their eyes about this, but sometimes you'll do those open mics or writers rounds is really the Nashville thing.
Mm-hmm.
You'll do these writers rounds, and the only people in the audience are the other writers, and you're like, oh my gosh, like what's the point of doing this? But like that is the point of doing it. Building a community at this point feels almost more important than roping strangers in to listen to your music, because then when one of you does succeed, your whole community succeeds, and as long as you keep that collaborative attitude, everybody shares success and they share their creative endeavors. It's a wonderful thing.
It is, and you're lifting everybody up. All the ships are being lifted up together, and
That's
so
right.
now you've been here 5 years. Where do you see yourself going? Like, what's your ultimate goal as a songwriter, as a musician?
That's a good question too. As a songwriter, I kind of like the idea of that I'm not. Well, be careful how I word this. Is I would love to see more success as a songwriter, but it is nice to have this musical outlet that I don't rely on for income. So as a songwriter, I don't see myself necessarily doing anything much crazier than I'm doing now as a songwriter. Although I got a cut on someone's record last year, which was really, really cool, and I would love for that to happen again, but I'm not counting on it necessarily. As a musician, just growing my community and playing with more and more artists. It is, getting. I like the idea of having a steady gig, perhaps. Although I also really like jumping around, just playing with all different people like I do now. So I don't know. I don't know if I have a set goal for what the next 5 years looks like, because I'm really just enjoying the ride.
Yeah, you just enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
So you've played with all these different people. Do you have like a dream collaboration you'd like to share the stage with at some point? Do you have like a dream artist that you'd like to team up with?
Oh man, I've got dream artists. My dream artists are like true dream artists. Like I don't think that they're people that I will ever get the chance to collaborate with. I think about John Mayer. John Mayer and John Foreman are my favorite songwriters. It'd be cool to join the stage with them. Hosier is someone who, when I first moved to Nashville, that was like my dream, because I knew most of his band is from Nashville. Hosier is technically a possibility. That could happen someday. Although he seems to have a pretty good band right now, and I'm not trying to poach anyone. But that's a dream job that's perhaps attainable at some point in my life.
Yeah, well, hopefully it'll happen. I just want to say, Anthony, this has been wonderful getting a chance to speak with you tonight. It means a lot to me and to my listeners that are tuning into the show. Where can people find out more about you on social media and find more about your music and all the cool things you got coming up?
Sure. Well, I'm on all the streaming services and digital music services under my name, Anthony Saddic. It's Anthony, and then my last name is Saddic. If you have trouble spelling, you can look me up on Instagram as Anthony Saddic, and I'll have links to all my music on my Instagram. I do have two new songs coming out this Friday. These are today you got a chance to hear some of my love songs. On Friday you'll get to hear a couple of my sassy breakup songs. So enjoy those. Look out for those.
Yeah.
Follow me on Instagram if you want a reminder of that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure to check those out. Thanks again, Anthony, and you're more than welcome to come back.
Really appreciate it. I had a great time, Stanley.
Awesome. Well, we're going to close things out with When I Say Her Name from Anthony Saddic. This is Stanley Carr, The Piano Man. Check us out on our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Piano Man Radio Show. I'll see you next time.